Good morning. My name is Bruce Dweck with Keller Williams Realty, and one of the things that we run into a realtor as realtors are questions about closing. And in order to address those questions today, I have with us Jason Cerrato, Justin Cerrato with Blue Ocean Title. And Justin is an attorney, a real estate attorney, and also vice president of operations for Blue Ocean Title, and has a wealth of experience in this area. So I'd like to get started by asking Justin, just what are some things that buyers and sellers need to know and be aware of and do in order to ensure that the closing process goes smoothly for them. So Justin?
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me, Bruce. And don't worry about the slip up with Jason. I get that quite often, so I've become accustomed to being Jason. But anyhow, in my opinion, so far as keeping the closing process progressing smoothly, the biggest thing is communication. We reach out, or our processors in the office reach out to both buyers and sellers along the way, and often ask for information. So long as the seller specifically readily provides information, it allows us to get things in order sooner rather than later, so that you don't have those last minute hiccups. And for example, things that we'll look for are our social security numbers. We have to have that on file for purposes of reporting the sale. We need mortgage payoff information. So, the current mortgage servicer's name, the loan number. We need, we may have questions about a survey or past, the way title is vested. So just, so long as the seller is prepared to answer those questions, and, they may not know the answer right away, but hopefully we can steer them in the right direction, and they can be more of a resource for us and not necessarily the answer. So, and that's more so on the seller side. I think the buyer side, really the buyers are working with their mortgage lender most of the way. Typically, the communication with us as the closing agent tends to be, in the last week or so when the buyer comes into play. So, if they're paying all cash without a mortgage, obviously we can communicate much sooner in the process. But traditionally, we find that the buyer tends to, that relationship tends to form later in the transaction. So again, just communicate, and honest communication, obviously. Another thing that comes into play is your marital status. That's very big and very important here in the state of Florida, because even if someone is separated for a number of years, but they're still married on paper, then the fact is they're still married. And again, we would have to have that spouse participate in any transaction, or potentially participate. So if it's a matter of tracking someone down, we'd like to know that sooner rather than later, so that we can get that ball rolling.
Right.
But other than that, Bruce, I mean, really, we tend to communicate with the agent a lot, sometimes directly with the sellers and buyers, but it sincerely is just a matter of good communication all around.
Okay, great. So typically the contracts have a 30-day close, and I guess for most finance contracts, and it's important to keep on that timeline, that communication be timely and everyone respond to calls or emails so that we can keep things on target, right?
Yep, absolutely.
That's good to know, because a lot of people think it's on automatic pilot, but it's really a participation process where all the players have to kind of come to the table and share that information, because this is a legal process, and it's important to make sure that all the I's get dotted and T's get crossed through the process so that it can go smoothly for all parties. Great.
Yep, that's a fact. And there's timelines, contractual timelines that parties must abide to. So, that's something else that both parties need to know, that, hey, we have an obligation to do X, Y, and Z within a certain time frame. And if not, there's potential penalties or, ramifications for missing those timelines.
Right. So then it's important for the buyer and seller to work with the agent, the title company, and closing attorney to make sure those timelines are met, because otherwise they could be in violation of that contract.
Yep, absolutely.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's great information to have. I appreciate you taking the time today and sharing that with our buyers and sellers. And thank you very much. For all those out there who may be listening, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Justin. Blue Ocean Title, we're great resources for you. Buying or selling a property is a team sport, so to speak, and it requires that everyone work together to make the process go smoothly for all parties. So thank you very much. Feel free to reach out to us with future questions.